Thank you so much. I'm really thrilled to be here. Thank you, Christine. I really appreciate that you guys brought me here and that you're all attending today. I'm Tricia, your nutritionist, for the next hour and 15 minutes that we have together. So we're ending at around 4:15-ish. Is that okay with everyone? Yes. 5:15. Oh, sorry. Yes, 5:15. Otherwise, we'd be here just, yes, sorry. 5:15. So I'm a registered dietitian, I'm a fitness instructor, a wellness coach, and a smoking cessation facilitator, and I love to help people with their health. I teach healthy aging at Northeastern University, and since 2011, I've been teaching a session each year at the MCOA, the Mass Councils on Aging Association for Massachusetts, at their annual meeting each year. Hopefully I'll be going this year too. I also have been to many senior centers across the state. I've been to a senior center in Connecticut, and last year I went to one of the blue zones. Who's read about the blue zones? Claudette and Christine and Yvette knows about blue zones? Yeah, well, Loma Linda, California is known as a blue zone. It's an area known for longevity. There are many of these areas across the world, and in 2 weeks from tonight, we're going to talk about those areas. I'm going to talk about the senior center there too. One of the things that I noticed that I thought was really interesting is that they had a vegetarian menu at the senior center out there. So I thought, wow, that's really pretty interesting stuff. So in that class, we'll talk about living a long, healthy life and what contributes to that. I just finished writing a Nutrition for Active Aging manual for a national fitness company, and I'm touring with them across the country to help people help other people with their nutrition. So I'm really happy to share what I've learned with you. One of the most important things that from my takeaway from January through the end of March, I was intensely reading studies and writing for 3 months, and my huge takeaways from all of that reading is that we really need to eat well, we need to move, and we want to make sure that we're getting a good sources of protein in the diet. We'll talk about my favorite two as we go through today. But moving is so important. If you're hurting somewhere, let's say you hurt your arm, well, you can move your legs, right? If you hurt a leg, then maybe you can do some chair exercise and move upper body. So we want to always think about, let's keep moving so we can stay independent as long as we possibly can and enjoy what we're doing. All right. So we're going to begin with Nutrition Power Hour. I'm very excited about this topic because we have a lot of little topics within the big topic of Nutrition Power Hour. The first power factor is to eat a balanced diet. When we look at these pictures up here, have you seen these before? So these are the government's icon for healthy eating is on the left. That's choosemyplate.gov. Tufts University has a My Plate for older adults, which I think is really helpful, except for one little thing on their My Plate. That's margarine. I think margarine is really junky. I don't think butter is too great for us either. So we should think if we're using margarine or butter, what are we using it on, and are there better choices that can take us toward longevity? When we start eating processed foods, too many of them, margarine is one of those, that can take us away from longevity. So let's think, on my toast, if I'm putting butter or margarine, what can I put on there that would lead me toward better health? What do you think?
Jelly. Avocado.
Peanut butter. I heard avocado and peanut butter, thumbs up. And then if you go to a place called Trader Joe's, do you ever go to Trader Joe's? You have the one in Foxborough is not too far. What I love about Trader Joe's, they don't pay me yet, right? What I love there is they have the cheapest nut butters. They have almond butter, which is really good. There are a few different kinds of peanut butter, which is really nice. And then they have other nut butters. I'll see cashew butter sometimes. They took it away for a while. I think that's back there again. But it's much cheaper than when you go to the regular supermarket. Nuts and seeds add years to your life. They can potentially add 2 years to your life if you're not doing them already. So we want to get more nuts in. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the class in 2 weeks from now. Nuts also can help to lower cholesterol, which is really nice. So they're a food of longevity, so we can put those on our toast. I heard avocado. avocados are anti-inflammatory. If we have arthritis, if we have diabetes, cancer, heart disease, the root of all of these is inflammation in the body. If we're overweight, that means we have some inflammation going on. Avocados are anti-inflammatory, and they're pretty yummy too. They do have a lot of calories, so we don't have to eat them all at once. Little bits at a time can be really helpful. When you have, let's say, half an avocado and you put it in the fridge, what can happen to it? It gets brown. I've heard of lots of different tricks. One is leave the pit in, right? Another one is to put lemon juice or vinegar over it so that it doesn't turn. So just some little tips to help keep that other half of the avocado so you don't feel like you have to have the whole thing. So avocados, great. Yes?
You mentioned nuts. I heard, but are you talking about across the board all nuts, or is there a certain nuts?
Yeah, I think all nuts are really good for us, and different nuts have different nutrient profiles. So almonds have more calcium than other nuts. Walnuts have more omega-3s. Nuts and seeds too. Flax seeds are great for omega-3s. Chia seeds. Another interesting seed is poppy seeds. They're actually high in calcium. And I never hear that promoted anywhere. And where do we eat them? Well, you can make recipes with poppy seeds in them. I'm experimenting with little energy balls that are healthier, just made from all natural ingredients. And I put lemon and poppy seed in there, and it's really yummy. And where else have you seen them?
I know I have a recipe for a delicious, like bread, poppy seed bread.
Yeah.
With lemon.
Yeah, so, adding little of those in can, you can get a little extra calcium there. So think about where you're using your butter or margarine, and then what can we substitute for that would bring us toward longevity and good health. All right, so let's look at these icons for good health. This is from the Harvard School of Public Health. Both of these are in agreement that half of your plate should be what? What do you see half the plate? Fruits and vegetables. So what are you eating right now? What did you have for lunch? Was half of what you ate fruits and vegetables? Some of you saying yes, some of you are not sure. The good news is you have another meal coming tonight and tomorrow, and we can just change it up. It's never too late to change it up and feel a lot better. Out in Foxborough, the gentleman that does the video camera out there, he changed his eating. I believe he was in his 70s, lost weight, and now him and his wife, they're going dancing, they're doing all these fun activities together. That's going to add years to his life, those great changes that he made to his health and to his diet. So half of your plate fruits and vegetables. What this means is that if we're only having vegetables at dinner, we want to try to get them at lunchtime too. And then are we eating, how many meals a day are you eating roughly? Three. Are you having any snacks, or is it roughly just 3 meals?
No, snacks.
You doing snack? And those of you that are snacking, what are you eating for snacks?
Apple with peanut butter.
Apple with peanut butter, great. Hummus with carrots, or yeah, that's a great snack too. It's good to think about getting vegetables as part of your snack and as part of each meal. And if you can get them at breakfast time too, great. But if you're only getting them at dinner, let's get them at lunch too. And then think of what are we having for snacks? Can we get in a vegetable at snack time? And then other cultures of longevity, they have vegetables as part of breakfast. How can you get a vegetable in at breakfast? Spinach, and how could you add that in?
Frittata.
It could be in a frittata, an omelet. What about a smoothie? Have any of you doing smoothies? Yes. Some of you are? Yeah, I see some hands going up. That's a great way to get some vegetables in as well. In other countries, like in Okinawa, they'll have vegetables as part of their soup. And in an area called Abkhazia, that's in the former Soviet Union, they have salad and a cornmeal porridge for breakfast. It's just a different way of thinking. When I started learning about the longevity cultures, I started to do things in a different way. I remember I went to a farmer's market and I just overbought. I got really excited at all the vegetables. You ever go and there's vegetables you've never seen before, like cauliflower in different colors? So I bought too much. And I thought, I'm never going to be able to get through all this. And I decided I'm just going to have some for breakfast each day, and that'll help me get through it. And it did help. And then I realized, oh yeah, I can have vegetables for breakfast. And reading about different areas of longevity helped me to realize I can have leftovers from dinner for breakfast. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just shifting our thinking a little bit. But it's a good way to get more vegetables in and potentially more protein in as well if you're eating leftovers. What's the best fruit to be eating?
Berries.
What was that?
Berries.
Berries are great.
Cantaloupe.
Cantaloupes, excellent.
Bananas.
Bananas.
Avocado.
Avocado is a fruit. You're right, Janis Joplin. Apples. Guess what? There is no best fruit. There is no best vegetable. There is no best nut. I do get those questions a lot. It's important to get a variety of them in. One of the simple things to think about when you shop for your fruits and vegetables, to shop for a rainbow. I'm going to the store, I'm going to shop for a rainbow. I'm going to get different colors of the rainbow. As you look at that rainbow, what color is missing? Are you missing any colors?
Blue.
Blue. Next week we'll talk about a study on blueberries. And they found that blueberries may help with balance and coordination. Don't we all want balance and coordination? Yeah, so we'll talk more about that. Also, blueberries may be associated with brain health. What can we get in if we don't like blueberries? What's in that color spectrum?
Grapes.
Right? Purple and blue grapes. There are blue grapes from Israel that have a very high antioxidant content. If you ever see those blue grapes around in the supermarket, those are good to go for. Well, you have also that you can chop up the cabbage, that's sort of that in that reddish, purplish color spectrum. And then we have eggplant, which is really good for us in the summer, plums, right? So in that bluish, purplish color spectrum, we want to look around and make sure we're getting some of those items in. In Okinawa, they have the imo. It's a Japanese yam. If you ever go to any Asian supermarkets, there's a great one in Burlington, and it's called H-Mart. And if you ever want to just take a little old field trip out there to just see what they're eating in Asia, you'll see vegetables you've never seen before in your life. And it's really a fun thing. They have one called the Japanese yam. It looks like a white potato on the outside, but when you cut into it, it's purple on the inside. It's really very colorful. And that's their staple. And they're known for having a large amount of centenarians, people over 100 years of age. So if you can get that Japanese yam, someone told me they found them at Whole Foods. So if you see them there, if you happen to be there, which one do you go to if you go to Whole Foods? Do you go to Bellingham or Bellingham? Yeah, so you have one there not too far away, and then you have Denham Legacy Place as well. All right, for protein, my grandfather had a saying, you want to eat what grows from the ground, what falls from the tree, and what swims in the sea. For protein, one of my favorite choices for good health and longevity is what? Fish, particularly salmon. Yes. Salmon is very high in omega-3s, like bluefish, trout, anchovies, sardines. These are all really good for us. So you want to try to get fish twice a week for optimal health. And that, if you don't want to cook all the time, one option is getting the can or the pouch. So fresh is always best, wild is best. If you can't do wild, it's okay to get farmed. I'm not endorsing farmed, but I'm saying if you can't afford the wild, then farmed, you're still going to get your lean protein and you're going to get your omega-3s. And then they have cans now, and some of them will say right on there, wild. And the pouches too are easy. If you don't like using the can opener, the pouches are really easy to open. So maybe you can get that in. Now, when you make a tuna salad, you don't have to use, or a salmon salad, you don't have to use mayonnaise. What could you use instead? If, let's say, you're watching your calories, you don't want to eat too many calories.
Yogurt.
You could do Greek yogurt in there. You could also do some avocado. That's an option too. And salsa. So salsa would lower the calories. Avocado would lower the calories by a little bit, and you're getting a much better source of fat in there. You're getting an anti-inflammatory fat. So that's another way you could make a tuna or a salmon salad. One thing you could do is mix the salmon with the tuna. You can mix that up. Let's say if you don't like the salmon taste too much. Salmon has a lot of the omega-3s. When you're buying the tuna, go for the light tuna, chunk light. Chunk light. It's a little lower in the omega-3s, but it's much lower in mercury than albacore tuna. And mercury is a neurotoxin. It's high in albacore tuna. So you just want to be careful. It's also high in shark and swordfish and tilefish. I'm the messenger. People get angry when I want to take away their swordfish. So I apologize. I didn't make the rule. I just tell you about it. So just be careful about that. My other favorite source for the protein group for longevity is what? Beans, Claudette. Thank you. Beans. Really important for longevity. When you look at the cultures of longevity, they're eating beans. When I ask people, what beans have you tried? I get baked beans a lot. And I'm not really talking about the baked beans because they're adding ketchup to that, which has sugar. So think about kidney beans, cannellini beans, great northern beans, chickpeas, black beans. There are so many beans that are out there. If you've only tried one bean and you say, I don't really like beans, there's a whole world of beans. You might just not have found the one that you might really like. What do you do with beans? Well, you can have them with rice and then a vegetable, and then you can make your own kind of topping or dressing on there. You could have an Italian flair, and maybe you buy some Pecorino Romano, and that's a cheese they use in Sardinia, which is known as the Blue Zone, and it's an island. It's part of Italy, but it's an island, and they make it with sheep's milk. Whole Foods has a really nice Pecorino Romano, as does Trader Joe's from sheep's milk. Very tasty. So you could do a Pecorino Romano, some garlic and onion and oregano, and give it an Italian flair. Or you could take rice, beans, and spinach, and you could put some ginger and maybe a little sesame oil and maybe some garlic and give it more of an Asian flair, maybe some sesame seeds on top. Or you can say, I'll take those rice and beans and spinach, and I'm going to put some cumin and some cilantro and give it more of a Mexican type of flavor. So what's nice is that you can dress these up to accommodate what you might already like. So give beans a try if you haven't. If you cook them from scratch, that's the best way. That's when you soak them, then you get rid of that water, and then you cook them. Lentils don't have to be soaked. When you get them from the can, you don't have to soak them. When you get them from the can, they tend to have a lot of sodium, so you want to rinse and drain them at least twice to get rid of the sodium. And when you rinse them and get rid of some of those bubbles, that'll help to cut that flatulence effect that some might have. So, if you're afraid of that, maybe don't have them before your yoga class, maybe after. But get your beans in. It's really important. What I find is that a lot of seniors, or I like to call seniors active agers that I talk to, I find that a lot of people, they may eat their meal at the senior center and then go home and have this for dinner. That's not giving you protein, it's not giving you a lot of nutrition. So be careful if you're going home and having cereal or crackers for dinner. It's just not a dinner. I'm reading a book about the original Kellogg's brothers and just learning more and more about cereal. And it's already been cooked for you. So it is processed because they already cooked it once. And I never really thought about cereal that way, but it's already been cooked and then it's just sitting in a box for a very long time. So I'd rather, if you're tired, you're just cooking for one, let's just find some shortcut food. Now, from scratch is the best way to be cooking. I met a guy named Castor, and this was at the senior center in North Attleboro. Castor is 95 and he's still cooking. He cooks for his daughter. Isn't that special? Yeah. If you go on Facebook and you link up with me on there, I have a little video of him. Really an amazing guy. So we can keep cooking as long as we want to. And maybe you link up, if you're cooking for one, maybe you link up with a friend that's here and you start cooking for each other. Maybe that can be enjoyable. But if you're cooking for one or eating for one at night, rather than the crackers, you can do the beans, rinse them off very well. You can get baby spinach. You can use this in your smoothie. You can make a salad from this, or you can put it in the microwave in a microwavable safe bowl for 3 minutes, and then you have a hot spinach. And then Trader Joe's has frozen quinoa, and frozen brown rice. And Steam Fresh brand has all kinds of frozen vegetables, and they have frozen brown rice. I prefer fresh, but if you're gonna go and eat crackers instead, then this stuff is gonna give you some nutrition rather than the cereal or the crackers. With the cereal, you're not getting much protein in there. That protein is what's gonna preserve your lean body mass, your muscles, so that you can stay independent as long as you want to. You can go traveling, so you can take that carry-on and put it on, up there on that top of that plane. There's an 87-year-old woman from New Jersey named Bernadette, and she's presenting at these national conferences that I've been presenting at. And she travels all over the world on her own, because she moves and she's able to get that carry-on up there. She's able to lug her luggage along, and she's really living the life. So it's about living your life as you want to live it as long as you possibly can, and that means eating healthy, not doing the cracker and the cereal shortcut. Once in a while, fine, but we don't want to be doing that all the time. We want to give our body the nutrition that it needs to thrive and survive, and also to help us to think better. So it's better that you have, the tuna in a can or the salmon in a can than eating the crackers. That's going to give you the protein, the omega-3 fat to make your brain thrive. So omega-3s are in the salmon. These are fats. They're in the salmon. I mentioned that they're in bluefish, trout, anchovies. Also, if you don't eat fish, they're in chia seeds, they're in flax seeds, walnuts, soy foods, and canola oil. I only want you to buy organic canola oil. The other stuff it was processed with a chemical that hasn't been tested very well. So if you're using organic oil, Spectrum, if you're using canola oil, Spectrum is a nice brand of organic. They're not paying me again yet, but I've read a lot about oil, and I was just in California, and I visited an olive oil plant, an olive oil ranch, so I got to see how they make their oil, and it just made me appreciate organic oil a little bit more from being able to see the trees being grown. And I think it's important for canola oil to get organic, for olive oil to get extra virgin olive oil. And extra virgin means it's from the first pressing of the olives. It's mechanically pressed or put through a centrifuge, rather than using chemicals or heat to extract. Extra virgin olive oil is anti-inflammatory. So we spoke earlier about getting rid of the butter. If you're putting it on your bread, how about extra virgin olive oil on your bread instead? It's another anti-inflammatory food. It may help with heart health. It may, getting rid of or lowering the inflammation in your body can help with brain health. So let's get more anti-inflammatory foods in the body. When you cook olive oil, it loses some of its really great health properties. So we want to put it over our salad, over our vegetables, over your whole wheat pasta. And we don't want to be taking it to a high temperature and cooking with it too much. So for going back to healthy protein for a moment, the fish, the beans, the chicken and turkey are next of my choices, and I want you to limit the red meat in the diet. Pork, beef, and lamb are red meat. Red meat takes you away from optimal health, shortens the lifespan. Fish and beans take you toward optimal health. So be careful with the red meat. Limit the red meat in the diet, especially processed red meat. So red meat, they're finding in studies, not so great for us in terms of mortality. And then they find that processed red meat, like bacon and your cold cuts, those are even worse for us than unprocessed red meat. So just keep that in mind to limit that red meat in the diet. And then we have grains. Tell me, what are some whole grains? What whole grains are you eating?
Wheat.
Whole wheat? Thank you, Peter. No, you're not Peter, you're Mike. Sorry, Peter and Mike and Dexter and Joe and John. Okay, so I have the guys down. All right, so you mentioned?
Whole wheat.
Whole wheat, yes. What else is a whole grain? Brown rice, yes. Quinoa, yes. What about oatmeal? Who's eating oatmeal? So I see hands going up. Great. Oatmeal is a really great choice. What's beautiful about oatmeal, you don't even need to cook it. If you buy old-fashioned oats and you go to Michael's with your coupon, you can get a mason jar almost free. And you can put your old-fashioned oats in the mason jar, put a little bit of whatever type of milk, whether it's dairy milk or soy milk, whatever milk you use, a little milk in there. I put some blueberries or frozen blueberries, some pecans, shake it up, it goes in my fridge. The next morning it's ready to eat. That's overnight oatmeal. So it's really easy. So you don't have to put it in the microwave at all. It's just ready, and it tastes like the cereal that we spoke about earlier. That's a much better choice than cereal. Why is it? Well, let's just take a look. So I have a cereal, and I was over at USDA a few weeks ago at the tree division out in Worcester. And when I was there after class, I got to know the people a lot, the workers a lot there, because I go back. And one of them brought this in. And she said, "What do you think of this? What do you guys think?" Kind of looks pretty good, right? Yeah, the packaging makes it look beautiful. Green, which you think what? Nature, healthy. And then you see cinnamon stick, and it says what? Pumpkin and flax. Sounds good. And says granola. So I just found the origin of granola. There was another mixture called granula, and the Kellogg's brothers copied that mixture, and they called it granula, and then they got in trouble, so they labeled it granola. And it was a mix of oat, wheat, and corn, and they named it granola. So it started in the mid-1800s. So this is granola. Be careful with granola, because they add what to granola to make it taste so darn good? Sugar. So let's look at the label, and I'm going to have Janice Joplin help me.
Okay.
Can you tell me how many grams of sugar?
9.
9. Can you picture 9 grams of sugar, anyone? But so they put that on there, and it's not even helpful to a whole class of 20 somewhat people. So I'm going to make it helpful. You take grams of sugar and divide by 4 to get teaspoons. Yeah, what's 9 divided by 4? Roughly, because take 8, yeah, 2. So let's just take a look with our friends from Domino's, and we're going to see what that looks like.
And that's just in one serving.
One serving. And you know what? One serving, Mike, one serving is half a cup. Now that doesn't look like a half a cup to me on the cover. No way. No way. That's a big bowl, right? And look, they show these things here. They don't show a pile of sugar, right? They don't show the pile of sugar. Okay, let me fish out my teaspoon. So we have 2 teaspoons. So for every half cup, they're putting 2 teaspoons. Right? So if you eat a whole cup, you're getting a lot more. Now, while we have the sugar out, let's take a look at one of your friends or foes. These guys, right? We've known about these for a long time. Anyone eat these in the last year? Has anyone eaten any of these in the last year? Okay, some people have, all right. Otherwise, I'm not going to bother showing you. If no one's eaten them, I'll just throw them away. All right, so let's look, and if you can help me, Rosemary, if you could look at the sugar grams.
31 grams of sugar.
Divide
By 4.
31. Round it up to 32. 8. So you divide by 4. 31, we round it up again to 32. Divide by 4 is 8. So we have the 2 on here. Let's just look what, yeah, so let's look. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now you're going to notice something really interesting when I show this.
Oh my goodness.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That's,
Wow.
wow.
Do you see?
About fills the bag.
Yeah, it's not a bag of candy. Isn't that crazy? It's a bag of what? It is a,
So is that the whole bag?
yeah,
Or just
that's the
so
whole
many
bag.
pieces?
That's the whole bag.
The whole bag?
The whole bag. It's a bag of sugar. And we're going to talk more about sugar in just a little bit, but it does affect your brain.
Gosh.
A recent study found that it may shrink brain volume, sugar, and particularly shrink the hippocampus area of the brain, which is responsible for memory. Yikes. Be careful. Sugar affects the brain in many different ways, and we'll talk more about it in just a little bit. Did everyone get to see that? Yeah, it's scary, right? All right, so let's talk about the rest of the icon for good health. So we were at grains and we spoke about some whole grains. You mentioned that you're doing quinoa, some of you doing oatmeal, brown rice, whole wheat pasta. These are great whole grains. The government says that half of the grains you eat should be whole grain. As your nutritionist, I say, why not make most, if not all your grains, whole grain? Well, why is that? Let's take a look. So this is a poster of a whole grain. And there are 3 pieces. So think of a piece of rice. This is a piece of wheat or a wheat kernel or a wheat berry. And it has an outer layer called the bran. It has B vitamins that turn your food into energy, may help you deal with stress. Has fiber in there, iron and other minerals. Companies strip this away when they process food. Then there's the germ area, rich in vitamin E, which is a potent antioxidant. Has a lot of vitamin B in it. Has fiber in there, plant chemicals. Companies strip that away. They strip away the oily area. Why? So that shelf life will be there, right? It can sit on the shelf because oil can go rancid. Get rid of the germ, and now we don't have to worry about the product going bad. So they strip it away. They take this white starchy stuff and they make these. And that's why I tell you, be careful with the crackers. And they make the cookies and the pastry and the bagels with that white starchy stuff. And it doesn't have a lot of nutrients. What you'll see in a label when you pick up bread, it'll say enriched. Do you ever see that word? Yeah. It should say poor. It should say poor flour. Because they took the good stuff away. And they call it enriched because they think they're richening it up by adding some of the stuff back, but they never add back what they took away. Otherwise, they wouldn't have taken it away. So when it says enriched, I run the other way. I'm like, no, I don't want that. Now, when you buy a whole grain, look for the keyword whole in the ingredient list. Whole oat, whole rye. When you see multi-grain, sometimes they try to trick us. What does multi mean? Many. It may mean many white starchy things, right? The white starchy stuff from rye, from wheat, from oats, from barley. But it might not be the whole rye, the whole wheat, the whole barley. So we want to be careful when it says multigrain. Sometimes it is truly all whole grain, and sometimes it's not. So we want to be careful. There are other whole grains out there like that we haven't mentioned, amaranth and spelt and millet and barley. If you haven't tried these are other things to start thinking about trying. So in China, they make a millet porridge called zhu. And this is millet right here. I think millet will be the next super grain. Everyone's been talking about quinoa for a while. I think millet will be the next one. It's gluten-free. It kind of reminds me of rice in a sense. You can use it as you would a rice or a pasta. I'm going to pass it around. This is uncooked. Please don't eat it. A couple times I've seen people dig in and yeah, so we don't want to do that. It's very old at this point. But nope, this isn't frozen. It's it's like you would find a pasta.
Oh, all right.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you want to just take a look, kind of looks like bird seed. And you can toast the grains first and then cook them with water. But that's popular, like I mentioned, in China. So We mentioned that a balanced plate has fruits, vegetables, a protein, grains. Our government says dairy should be part of that. As your nutritionist, I want to tell you that a lot of people are sensitive to dairy. So you'll see Harvard's eating plate and water is on there. So we don't have to feel bad if we can't tolerate dairy. Water. If you can't tolerate dairy, I suspect you may need to take a calcium supplement. So that's something to take up with your doctor or dietitian. When we do dairy, 3 servings of dairy a day gives you about the amount of calcium that you need to support your bones. When we're not doing a lot of dairy, if we're doing calcium supplemented soy milk or calcium supplemented rice milk, then we may be getting enough. There are sources in your diet like broccoli and kale and almonds that are good sources of calcium, but they might not add up to enough to support your bone health. So just keep that in mind that you may need a supplement. And because of where we live, a lot of us are vitamin D deficient. And the doctors will kind of argue with you. If you say, can you test my vitamin D? Oh, they'll give you a story. No, I want it. They'll say, just take it. But why should you spend money and take it if you're not deficient? So just say, I really would like it tested. And you might be surprised that you're deficient. Nothing wrong with you. It's just where we live. And if you think about the weather this year, we haven't been outside a lot. And in the wintertime, it's really hard to get enough sun to make vitamin D. And as we get older, we lose that ability. It diminishes to make the vitamin D like we did when we were younger. So just something to get tested for. All right. So we look at Harvard's plate, and the milk was a little bit different, how they have water there. It is important to stay hydrated. Very important that you're drinking your water. As we get older, our sense of thirst diminishes. So we want to make sure that we're hydrating. And it can affect your kidneys if you don't get enough water in. So you want to stay hydrated. What else is different with the plate over here? What else is different?
The portions are different.
Portions a little bit different. So fruit a little bit smaller, and that's probably more accurate that we should have more vegetables than fruit, but fruit is still important. I say get a total minimum of 2 different fruits a day. Try to get 3 servings if possible. I've looked into fruit, it may help with arthritis. May help with cancers that are all in this area, like esophageal cancers, throat cancer. You want to make sure you're getting your fruit in for your immune system, for healthy eyes. So minimum of 2 to 3 fruits a day. Absolute minimum of 2, but 3. Serving size is about a half cup of fruit, like a half cup of berries. That's roughly a serving size. ChooseMyPlate.gov can go into a lot more detail if you want exact details on how much of each different fruit. There's another thing I'm looking for, and you see at the top left, the oils. Yeah, Harvard School of Public Health, they put oil on there. They also put staying active, because that's really, really important. When we eat, we need to move. After you eat, it's nice to move, because moving makes your cells more sensitive to the action of insulin. So particularly if we have diabetes, that's a good strategy, but if we want to prevent diabetes, that's a good strategy, to move after we eat. In Italy, people take a passeggiata after the meal. What's that? Oh, good. Oh, I heard it over here. A stroll. Now, if I told you after your meal, I want you to exercise, oh, that can sound horrible to people. But how about after your meal, go on a passeggiata, go on a stroll. Make it interesting. I like to go on a stroll and I say, I'm going to look at everyone's front door on this stroll. And you'll see everyone has a different front door, kind of different windows in there, kind of different colors. And then I might go on another stroll and say, I'm going to look at everyone's lantern today. Everyone has a different lantern. I was walking around in the next town over from mine. I saw pineapple lanterns. I'm like, oh, that's really nice. And then you can if you get bored of your own town, then go park in another town and take your passeggiata and stroll there. That happens to me. I get bored. Like I said, that was in the next town over. Go somewhere else and go for a stroll. And you have a lot of fun towns near you. You have your town, and you can park in Norwood and walk down their Main Street area, and just explore different areas and make it interesting. But the key is to move. If you're in your home, dance for 10 minutes. Do something after you eat. It's really good for your body. So back to this before we flip. You want to eat a balanced diet, healthy oils. We want to eat extra virgin olive oil, organic canola oil, the avocado, nuts and seeds have good healthy fats in there. That's where nut butters, that's where our fats should be coming from. The healthy fat that's in fatty fish like salmon, that's where we're getting good fats. All right, this is the plate from the American Diabetes Association. The difference with this plate is they have a little measurement here encouraging a smaller plate. And I'm going to show you a smaller plate in just a little bit. And what they did, they made half the plate vegetables, which I think is very smart. And they put a little serving of fruit off to the side. I like that. I think that's nice. So we get a huge focus on vegetables, more vegetables in the diet. All right. Let's talk about portions. We want to cut our portions and make simple changes to lower your calorie intake if you need to. So as we age, the calories we need goes down. It's much different than when we're in our 20s, when we're in our 70s and 80s. We need less calories with each decade as we get older. That means that the calories that we do have to take in, we want them to be really super healthful. So what should we do? Well, to get in less calories, cutting our portion size, if we're looking to lose weight, can be especially helpful. Let's just look at a portion and these plates. So the American Diabetes Association, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, which oversees dietitians, I report to them, they say that 1 serving of a cooked grain, like rice or pasta, is 1/3 cup. So here is your 1/3 cup of rice, and some fell out, and we're going to show it right here. And I want you to see what that 1/3 cup looks like on the plate. I'm going to do a magic trick for you. And let me just get my wand. Did someone bring me water? Is that my water? Oh, it is. Thank you. That's kind. I appreciate that. All right, let's do the magic trick. And now, oh, we lost one couple kernels. We're going to see what it looks like on the smaller plate. Right? All right. So now look at how much it looks like. Do you see the difference? Where we have Janice Joplin in the back, do you see? Yes, isn't that unbelievable? Right? So small, if you're trying to watch your weight, smaller plates are key because it makes you feel like you're getting more, which is really helpful, especially when you start hearing, oh, that's the serving, that's kind of small. Well, it looks like more if you have it on a smaller plate. Now, if you add vegetables to it, that beefs it up. Vegetables and beans, and you can have a nice full plate. But if you have, a lot of people end up doing too much starch, and then they think all of a sudden I have to cut out all my starches. No, just cut your portions. Add more vegetables to it. One thing the starches are good for is a good mood. They are associated with good mood. They help you to produce serotonin in the body. So we don't want to cut out all of the starches, just watch the portions on there. Let's talk a little more about portions. The macronutrients that we eat are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Now, in the 80s, we told people, don't eat, watch all your fat, and that was because we thought, well, fat has a lot of calories, so we should just not eat it at all. And we were wrong because some fats are essential. So we want to get fats in because they help you to absorb your vitamins, particularly A, D, E, and K, your fat-soluble vitamins, and they're good for our body overall. They help to keep us warm. We need some fat in the diet. Proteins and carbohydrate have 4 calories per gram, and alcohol is 7 calories per gram, and alcohol can really add up. So how much alcohol should we be drinking? What do the dietary guidelines say?
None.
None? Good guess. 1 glass a day. Yes, and then 1 glass a day for women, and how much for men? 2. So 1 glass a day is 5 ounces. So let's look at the 5 ounces. Here's 2. Here's 4. And here is 5. This is a 5-ounce glass. If you came to my house and I filled it up this much, you might say, what? She's cheap. Right? They make the glasses too big. I got this at an estate sale. If your glasses are still this size, that's a good thing, because look, you can't even fit all of it. That was the correct size years ago. Now the glasses are so big, we don't know how much we're drinking. It's probably too much. If you drink this, you're probably getting 2 glasses when you think you're getting 1. So a 5-ounce glass counts as 1, and it's 1 glass a day for women and 2 glasses a day for men. That's the limit. And we just want to be careful with alcohol, because too much is associated with a lot of health issues, and moderate drinking may be okay. And there's a fine line in between, so you really don't want to cross that fine line. There's some evidence too that says alcohol may contribute to quality of life. So if it's working for you, keep it moderate. If you're not drinking, I never recommend anyone start drinking for their health. Never as a dietitian. If you hear Mediterranean diet's really good for you, well, how about having red grapes? Because resveratrol is a compound that's in red wine that's also in red grapes, and they think that might be the compound that contributes to good health. So just have some red grapes in the diet. All right, so we want to avoid portion distortion. Using measuring cups and spoons can help us to keep our portions about right. I keep several sets of cups and spoons available. So if, let's say, I had a 3rd cup I measured out my oatmeal for breakfast, and now this is dirty. If it's dinner time and I'm having a 3rd cup of rice, I don't really want to have to wash this and then measure it. So I like to keep more measuring cups and spoons around to just make it really easy to portion out my food. Let's look at portion changes over the years. 20 to 30 years ago, the bagel was little, the little Lenders, remember those? 140 calories. Now they're huge everywhere. When you go out to a bagel shop, I never see mini bagels. Do you ever? You can't buy a mini bagel anywhere. You still can get them at the supermarket, but not at a bagel shop. Or if you go out to breakfast, they never say, oh, would you like a mini bagel? Have you ever gone anywhere? No, right? It's always these. So it's 350 calories. It's a 210 calorie difference. Well, 100 extra calories a day is 10 pounds over the course of a year. So if we go to the little bagel example, it's 210 more calories. That's raking leaves, doing your spring cleanup for 50 minutes just to accommodate that increased portion size. What about the burgers? Years ago, 333 calories, now 590 and more. We'll talk about restaurant eating in just a little bit. The calorie difference, 257 calories. That's like lifting weights for an hour and a half. Yeah, so it's a lot of time to burn up the increase in portion size over the last 30 years. The coffee, I think, is the worst, what's happened to our coffee. It's really scary. 20 years ago, you can order a small coffee, is around 45 calories. That's with whole milk and sugar. Remember that at a diner, the little mug? Now, the coffee has grown. This coffee is 350 calories over here, 305 calorie difference. Well, that 305 calorie difference is walking for an hour and 20 minutes, which you might be doing already. Now we have to do another hour and 20 because we're having a large coffee. But let me show you what's really scary lately. So I was in Orlando at a conference over the weekend, and I wanted to show the people at the conference how much sugar is in some of these coffee drinks that are at Dunkin' Donuts. So I was online, and I'm looking online in Dunkin' Donuts, and all the whole line of people, everyone was obese, and they were all getting these big coffee drinks. And I felt bad because I'm online because I know what it does, and I'm buying it to show it as an example. And I want a bullhorn to like tell everyone in there, like, it's this, that's the problem. So I go up to the counter and I wanted to get a large. They ran out of large. They had no large cups left. So I had to get a medium, which was still fine for my demo. So I got this one Monday at a Dunkin' Donuts here in Massachusetts. They had the large. So they have a new flavor called the Girl Scout. Now I have a problem right there. You're calling a coffee drink a Girl Scout? It's like having, you know, like the Girl Scout martini. Like, why would we name it, right? But they're calling it the Girl Scout coffee. So it's a Girl Scout coconut caramel frozen coffee with skim milk. I'm doing good. I'm getting skim milk. Claudette, what do you think? We're going to get skim milk. Okay, you're saying no. It's full of sugar. So the large has 191 grams of sugar. Divide by 4. 47.
Wow.
47 teaspoons. So let's just look at 47. We had 8 right here, right? So we have our 8. So here we go. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, woo, 30, 31, whoops, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, and 47. Look at that. Look at that. Suzanne, are you thirsty? No. Right? It would be very hard for Suzanne to eat all this sugar. But if we just filled the rest with water and remixed it, it's very easy to drink it down. And the calories on this is unbelievable. So it's 900 calories. So if we took Suzanne here and we fed her this today, she said, ooh, yummy. Now, when I was online and I got this in Orlando, I took a long walk to get to Dunkin' Donuts. And I had this cold drink in my hands. I don't really like coffee anyway, but I'm like, I could just take a sip and just see what it tastes like, but I didn't. Why didn't I?
You want to get home.
I did it because it's addictive and it creates, do we all remember what an Oreo tastes like? Mm-hmm. Do we all remember what an M&M tastes like? I don't want to remember what a frozen girl, because what if I liked it? It creates a reward pathway. And now I might want another. That whole line of people, they're addicted. They're going back. It's like a circulating door. They're going back every day, and this is part of what they do. So we want to be really, really careful with that. So this is basically diabetes right here. It's diabetes. So when I did this demo, I walked back to the hotel and I was on a panel of other nutritionists. One of the nutritionists there mentioned that, and I looked this up to see, apparently in your bloodstream right now, if they took your blood sugar, there's 1 circulating teaspoon of sugar in your bloodstream right now. So if you took this in a few minutes, that's 40, you're asking your body, and your body really is only doing 1 at a time to do 46 teaspoons, or 47. I mean, it's just really unbelievable. So we want to be careful with the coffee drinks that are out there, really, and especially with the sizes now. Because we look at these little glasses years ago that people drank from, and this is a little restaurant glass from years ago. And, you know, you look at that, and now we don't need these gargantuan sizes. So we want to be really careful about how much sugar we're taking in and how much liquid sugar. All right, years ago, the muffins were 210 calories, now 500 calories. It's a 290 calorie difference. That would be like vacuuming for an hour and a half. Let's talk about other ways calories can add up to pounds. Second helpings 3 times a week can equal about 600 calories per week. That's 9 pounds over the year. So if we just push the plate away, right, when we're done with that, you know when you eat that food and you're like, oh, I could have a little more. Well, if you're looking to lose weight, we want to cut that off. If you switch to skim milk versus whole milk, you could save 12 to 13 pounds over the year. If you binge eat, maybe watching TV or reading and you eat too much, over the course of the year, that could be 30 to 90 extra pounds. If you switched from a bowl of ice cream to a single serve treat, they have single serve treats by Diana's Bananas that I like, and you'll see them. Some of you are saying yes, Rosemary has tried them. They have them at Whole Foods, Stop and Shop, and Shaw's will sometimes have them depending on which one you go to. That's in the frozen area. Those are about 120 calories. Well, if you switch to a single serve treat, you can save 20 to 22 pounds over the year. Because some people like their ice cream at night, but if you just picked a better snack, you could save. All right. Let's talk about the food label. So the new food label is coming out in 2020, and by 2021, all companies will use it. Those smaller companies have until 2021. The new food label will have calories in bold, and that's one of the difference from the current label. And let me just pull up my picture here. So you'll see calories in bold. Another thing they're going to have is an area for added sugar. And that'll be helpful because you take the added sugar grams, divide by 4 to get teaspoons. What I worry about when the new label comes out, companies aren't want you to know the added sugar grams. So I think they're going to start using more sugar alcohols and artificial sugar. So we need to read through the ingredient list and know what we're eating, because I think they don't want you to know this. Now, right now, if you buy a yogurt, and this yogurt is a good example, and you look at sugars, it'll just say, and Dexter, can I have your help with sugars?
9 grams.
9 grams. Now this doesn't, when you read through the ingredients, there's no sugar in there. So that's the natural sugar, the lactose. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the added sugar when we buy food. So if this was up here, it would say total sugars 9 includes 0 grams of added sugar when the new label comes out. So that's something that we want to be aware of. It's the added sugar that's the problem. So I have a trick that I'm going to teach you for labels, and it's in your handout. I want you to remember 3 numbers, 5, 10, and 20. What are the 3 numbers? 5, 10. It's this slide right here, Nutrition Power Factor number 3, using the label rule as a label tool. 5, 10, and 20. If a nutrient is 5% or less, it means that nutrient is low in that food. We're talking about percentages, not grams. The percentages are on the label. And when you look here, you'll see the percentages are on the right-hand side, percentages. So 5 or lower is low, 10% means a significant source of, and 20% means high. So when we look at the beans, if you can tell me the percentage of fiber. 40%. Is this high or low in fiber? High in fiber, yes, that's why beans, one reason they're so good for us. And Sarah, can you help me with the percentage? These are in nuts. Percentage of vitamin E, potent antioxidant.
20%.
20%, is that high or low? High, just one reason, one of many, that nuts are really good for us. Now, I had a woman in Lunenburg, Mass, who came to my class. And she said, Tricia, what do you think of this? It's chowder.
Oh my God.
Yes, chowder. So, Diane, can you help me and let me know the saturated fat percentage?
44%.
High or low in saturated fat? High. Saturated fat clogs the arteries. Very high, right? Can you tell me that, Claudette, the sodium percentage?
34.
34. High or low in sodium?
High.
High in sodium. And now we're going to ask Joe the percentage of fiber.
40%.
That's a 4. 4%. High or low in fiber? Low. Now, if it was a bean soup, what do you think it would be in fiber? High. Probably high, right? What do you think I told her for this? Thumbs down. And that's before we didn't even get to the ingredient list, but thumbs down. Now, you were all wrong, by the way, with the numbers you gave me. You know why? There are 2 servings in here. 2 servings. So it's actually double. You said 44, it's really 88. Yeah, so this is, you know, if you were to eat this in 1 serving, like you brought that, she would bring these for lunch. So if that's your one, yes, yeah. Yes, so we want to be really careful and know the numbers, but then we want to know the ingredient list. Now I have another class called What's in Your Food, and maybe we can come back another time and talk more about the ingredient list. And that class is also over an hour, so that's a whole other topic. But you want to be, you know, really careful and start learning your ingredients. All right, nutrition power factor number 4, limit sugar. We started to talk about sugar. I helped you turn your grams into teaspoons. The limit for added sugar is 6 teaspoons for women and 9 for men. 6 for women and 9 for men of added sugar, not fruit. We don't have to worry about counting the teaspoons in an apple. We're talking about added sugar. What I have up here is 32 pounds of sugar. 1 can of soda a day, or 1 can of iced tea, or 1 can of lemonade. It's about 32 pounds of sugar over the course of the year. I know, shocking. Now, heavy users of sugar tend to develop a tolerance, so they need more and more to feel the same effect. I'm one of them. I get sick, I put a little honey in my tea, then I want more honey and more to get that same effect. I know sugar's a problem, so I'm careful to limit it and stay away from it. I think that's the first thing we can do for ourselves, is say, you know what, I have a little issue with sugar, and it can help you to, you know, realize that's an issue and to watch it. Sugar activates the same region of the brain as crack and cocaine. Now, you saw the sugar in here. Looks like a substance, doesn't it? Yes, so we want to be very, very careful because it has that effect on brain. Remember I mentioned earlier, it can affect your memory and the hippocampus area of the brain, literally shrinking the brain volume. Countries with the higher sugar intake appear to have a higher rate of depression. And I mentioned earlier, sugary drinks are directly linked to type 2 diabetes, so we really want to limit them in the diet. The more sugar on the market, when sugar is studied, the higher a country's diabetes rate. So more sugar, we see more diabetes and more depression. Sugar increases triglycerides, it increases blood pressure, and it lowers HDL, which is the healthy cholesterol. That's the number we want high, the portion of the cholesterol we want high, HDL. So it lowers that. So it's really bad for your heart. All right, let's talk about dining out. And then right after dining out, we're going to do mindful eating, and then we're going to wrap up. Now, I do a whole hour on dining out. If I had to compact that hour into one slide, this is what I have. And it's when you dine out, if you're looking to be healthy, avoid saucy, cheesy, and fried. When they add sauces, they tend to add a lot of butter, cream, salt. I remember going to a restaurant, and I was working with this restaurant. They hired me when trans fats became known as being really bad, and they wanted me to analyze all of their food to help get the trans fat out. And while I was in there, and I could see it now, there was a line of chefs over there, and they were making a risotto. And behind that wall were all the people that were dining there for lunch. And they called me over, and I went over there, and they were making this risotto, and they added salt, and then they would taste it. And they said, no. Added more salt. And then they mixed it up. It was over the oven top. And then they would taste it, no. Then they would put cream, mix it up more. And I was kind of shocked, like all the stuff that's going. They taste it, no. Butter, mix it up, taste it, no. They kept adding stuff. And then they tasted it, and their eyes lit up. They were like thrilled. And they said, you. And they said, taste it. And I tasted it. And what do you think I thought? It was the best risotto I've ever had in my whole life. And I would never say it's too salty, it's too creamy, it's too buttery. I would say this is perfect. Bon appetit. It's so good. And the people on the other side of the wall getting that for lunch were thrilled. And the chefs meant well. They wanted to taste good. But I was just surprised because my dad says that a lot. Let's go out to eat. And he likes to go to some restaurants in my town. And he's like, they don't use a lot of salt there. Let's go there. I'm like, they do. Like, they all do. The chefs are just really good. They know how to put the foods together. We have a chef right in the back of the room. Hi, Yvette. Yvette is a chef, and she's a healthy chef, which is really awesome. And so you probably have seen this kind of stuff in your training, right? Yeah, chefs want to make it tasty. So we have to be careful, and when you dine out, ask for food. Oh, please tell them to use less salt. Cheesy, when they add cheese to food, they're adding a lot of saturated fat. They often add too much cheese. Have you noticed? You get a Greek salad and they put a whole dump of the feta cheese. And with cheese comes the saturated fat that bumps up the cholesterol. Fried food can double the calories versus unfried food, and it's often being fried in junky oil. French fries have a compound that forms called acrylamide. So acrylamide forms when you take a carbohydrate-rich food to a high temperature. So be careful with French fries and potato chips. One great strategy is pack up half your food to go. This way it's out of sight and out of mind. That's a really helpful strategy. And another one is look up menus beforehand so you know what to order. Otherwise, if you're out socializing, it could be really hard to focus on the menu. One of my go-tos is to get salad with grilled chicken or salad with salmon. Usually every restaurant you can get salad with chicken. It's an easy thing to fall back on. Let's just look at a couple of menus. If you go to 99, that burger I told you earlier was a few hundred calories. Now the burgers are 960. This is a bacon and cheese burger, 960 calories. The crunchy pickle barbecue burger, 1,400 calories. That's probably all that many people need in just a day. Especially seniors that are sedentary, they might only need 1,600 calories if they're exercising a little more, but that can be a whole day's worth. So we want to be careful. Now we look at the Applebee's menu, and one of the things to be careful of, ribs tend to be very high. So they have riblets, 940 calories. And when you look at fries at 430 calories, well, if you said instead of fries, can I get a vegetable? Sometimes they will easily flip that for you. Steamed broccoli, 90 calories. So it's a big switch that can save you, about 300 calories. 300 calories a day is 30 pounds over the year. It really all adds up. So be careful when dining out. And now for the last thing we're going to do some mindful eating. We're going to pass out. If you can take one of those and pass them along, thank you. And so don't open them yet until we're ready in just a minute. So if you can take that and pass that along. No? Okay. Here you go. And you're welcome. If you could take one and pass those along. So the first thing that once it's like we almost have, all right, they're coming around. And Janis Joplin, number 2, is getting them. Okay. Does everyone else have one? Does everyone have one? Oh, before you start, I want you to open the box close to your nose and take a sniff. And I want you to tell me, how's it smell? Delicious. Sweet, delicious, Rosemary said, okay. So, is it worth eating, taking a first bite? So I take one, and before you bite it, take a look at it, hold it up to the light of the screen. Sometimes you can see through it a little bit. Sometimes there's a cloudiness in the wrinkles. Just take note of what it looks like. Does it look dry? Does it look juicy? Juicy. Okay, that's good. Looks fresh. That's a good sign. Would an Oreo look fresh? Not really, right? Look kind of processed. So put it in your mouth. Before you bite into it, just roll it around, see if you can taste it. And then when you're ready, start chewing it and then tune into the flavor. Is it moist? Is it yummy? Is it fruity? Is it sweet? Or is it dry? Is there some paper attached to it? Sometimes that happens and they dry out.
It's good.
It's good.
Sweet and fruity.
Sweet and fruity, okay, that's good. And for anyone else, is it not sweet and fruity? We're all different. Now I want you to take another bite, and I want you to count how many chews you get out of that bite. How many times do you chew it before you swallow it? 10, okay, thank you. 5? 12, okay. 13, 13, 10, 13. Some people are still chewing. 15. 23, great. The process of digestion starts in your mouth. Many of us swallow too fast. There was a guy in the 1900s named Fletcher who developed this process of just chewing your food more, and he lost weight. He developed a whole following of people that lost weight from just chewing their food more. In our rushed culture, we tend to eat everything too fast. So if we're looking to lose weight, think about slowing down your rate of eating and chewing your food more. Now we're going to do another thing with either the papers you have in front of you or with the screen up there. I want you with your next raisin to chew and read at the same time. Then halfway through the slide, stop reading and tune back into the chewing and see if you noticed a flavor burst. You noticed it. Isn't that interesting? So how much are we wasting when we watch TV, when we read and eat? We're wasting away our food because we're not getting that flavor. And some of us are just looking to eat more, to get that mouthfeel, and we're just wasting that time away when we could be chewing and focusing and really enjoying our food. Food is meant to be enjoyed and savored and not rushed through. All right. So let me just go over a few more mindful eating principles. One of them is to sit down when you eat. Try to get rid of the reading, the TV, the computer, the phone while you eat. Be aware of every bite, savor every bite. Use smaller spoons and forks and utensils. Using chopsticks can help you to be more mindful, right? That can slow us down. If we cut up all our food at once and eat it all at once, we can eat too fast, so maybe cut, then eat. Utensils down, take a deep breath. Enjoy the food. Another thing that is important to know that it can take 20 to 30 minutes to feel full. So sometimes rather than having the seconds, it's better to be done and then distract yourself. Go do something else before we go for that second helping. The last thing that I want to mention, this is Harahachi-bu from the Okinawans. We'll talk about more about the Okinawans 2 weeks from now. And they do this thing called Harahachi-bu. They eat until they're 80% full. So they leave a little bit of room in the belly. And what does that mean exactly? Well, it means that at that point where you're ready to go for seconds, that's when they stop. And they say, no, I'm going to leave a little room in the belly. It's a different way of thinking about your food. So I want to invite you to come back next week. Next week, we're talking about food for thought. So food for memory and mood and mental functioning. We'll talk about what to avoid and what to eat. If you're looking to prevent against Alzheimer's and dementia, we'll talk about what to eat for a better mood. It'll be lots of fun. And then we'll talk the following week about longevity factors. So I hope that you all join me. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. So do we have any questions? And if you have to go, I totally understand. I'll be here packing up for a while too. But any questions from the group? Yes,
I have a question. I know nuts are really good now. If
Yes.
you have like diverticulosis,
yes.
is that something you should have not
Okay,
avoid?
so it's a really good question. So the new thinking on diverticulosis is that you don't have to avoid nuts and seeds. However, that's the new thinking, but I still talk to lots of people who say, I know that X, Y, and Z bothers me. So if you know what bothers you, I would continue to avoid that. If you know that you had a certain food that spiked your diverticulosis into itis, if you know what that is, that food, then I wouldn't have that. And a lot of people kind of know what food just doesn't agree with them. So trust your instinct on that. But the larger thinking is you can have it all, but I don't want to send anyone to the hospital. I just don't. I think you trust your gut, literally your gut. Now, when diverticulosis is itis, when it's the active, you're feeling horrible, you're in the hospital, fever is spiked, they will put you often on a low fiber diet. When you heal, when you're ready for it, then we want to be on a higher fiber diet to help prevent it in the future. When we increase fiber in the diet, we need to increase what? Water. Water. It helps to push the food through so that we don't get constipated. So we increase fiber, then increase water. Oatmeal is a nice thing to do if you're not doing it. Beans to help to increase the fiber in the diet. So, just a couple of things. But your whole grains, your vegetables, and fruits, these are all things that are going to help with your preventing against osis from going to itis, right? And then also to help prevent against constipation and for overall good health too. There was another question. Oh, and then, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, no, go ahead.
I'm limited in mobility
Okay.
right now, so what would you, and I'm concerned I'm gaining weight because
Okay,
of that.
sure.
What do you recommend for me to do?
Okay, so if we're concerned about gaining weight, when we're trying to heal, we do want to have overall healthy food. So when anyone has some kind of injury, one of the things I say is cut back your sugar or cut it out when you're trying to heal, because you don't want the sugar to get in the way of healing. So if we're trying to watch our weight, first thing would be the added sugar in the diet. Really cut that low. The other thing is, what can you do? So when I've had all kinds of lower body injuries, there's a lot you can do in the chair. Right? We can do lots of things. We can lift weights too. There's lots of weights. We can do shoulders. We can do triceps. We can put a band behind us, do chest. There's a lot of great things. You can have a band in front of you and pull back and help work your back. So you could get a great upper body workout and an aerobic workout. I made my husband take a picture of how much I sweat from just doing all these aerobic type of things in a chair. Okay. So a lot of things you do, there's so many things that you can do just in the chair. So still try to move. I think that's important. With whatever does work, try to move that. And then when you're ready, the physical therapy is your bridge between now and working out in the classes here. So I think the physical therapy is really important to go to next. You might already be doing that, but that if you're not, that's the next step between now and working out in the class or at the Y or wherever you work out. It's really key that you limit the sugar, eat very healthy diet. So when you follow that my plate, that balanced diet to get all the nutrients to heal. And then watch the portions. So the portions people tend to get in trouble with are, too much pasta. The first line is cut out all the junk food. Cut out the crackers. No more, while you're, when you're more sedentary, cut out the crackers. But when you have starchy carbs, make them healthier. Oatmeal, whole grains, just smaller portions of everything. I think that's key. And then to just move. So you can make it structured, like, all right, every time I eat, I'm going to do 10 minutes of just moving around. And that might, kind of help you along the way. All right, good luck. All right, you're welcome. Yes, question?
Is almond milk, does that give you more calcium than regular?
I'd rather you eat almonds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rather than the almond milk?
Yeah. So in almond milk, they put something called gellan gum. and they put sometimes carrageenan, and carrageenan is known to be inflammatory when they process it, and inflammatory for your intestines. Gellan gum it's from a bacteria, and xanthan gum is another gum that you'll see, and these are both bacteria. So they take bacteria and they feed it sugar, and the bacteria eats the sugar, and then it forms a slime, and they take the slime and they dry it out using isopropyl alcohol, and they're allowed by law to have residual. Isopropyl is rubbing alcohol. So they dry it out, and then they turn it's a powder. So the almond milk companies, they buy it in a powder, and that's just part of the witch's brew of mix that they make. Now, almonds are really healthy for us. When they make almond milk, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe they remove the skin. And Yvette and I took a raw foods class. Did we remove the skin on the, not for the almond milks? Did they use the whole almond?
We did use whole
We used the whole raw.
There are some almond milks that do not have carrageenan, but they will have guar and or xanthan usually.
And the gellan gum, I've only found one without the gellan gum out of all the almond milks that I look at. And they have other gums then. Some gums are better, they're from a tree, and I prefer that than from a bacteria that they use the isopropyl alcohol. Just be careful. If you make your own almond milk, I'm actually all for that. But I want you to just be really careful, because you're not getting a lot of almonds from that. And usually they're adding the calcium to get the calcium that you need. So just something to be careful about. But they do add a lot of, there's additives to there. And when you start looking at what these additives are, they're not so great for us. Yes?
So what do you recommend when you make a smoothie then?
It really depends. So it could be if you dairy milk, soy milk, yeah. And if you're using soy milk, Trader Joe's has one. There are 2 ingredients: soybeans and water. West Soy has an organic, unsweetened, 2 ingredients: soybeans and water. Get non-GMO when you buy soy milk. If you have had a history of breast cancer, then talk to your doctor. Some doctors don't want you to go on soy. If you're taking thyroid medication, that can the soy can interfere with the thyroid medication. So talk to your doctor about that. He might just, or she might just say, we'll have the soy milk at a different time. They might not want you on soy. So you just have to talk to your doctor in those two cases. In Asian cultures, they use soy foods. We're just not as big on it in our country, and they have less breast cancer in in Asia. So just something to think about. But good questions. Other questions? Yes.
When you said don't eat crackers, I'm a big grain cracker eater,
Oh.
and I have that with my tea as my dessert.
Yeah. So if that's working for you and everything else is healthy, then maybe that's okay, but maybe there's a better option that's out there for you. Graham crackers are one of them that tends to come out high when you look at that acrylamide forming. Mm-hmm. So it can happen on burnt toast too. So when you take carbohydrate and bring it to a high temperature, but graham crackers came out high on that. So if you Google acrylamide graham crackers, it'll come up. So I might switch things around. If crackers are working for you and your weight is fine, there are better crackers that are out there, like Wassa and Akmac, Kavli. These are some brands that are a little better. Mm-hmm. So just see if there's a snack that you might still enjoy. And there's also better graham crackers. They're whole wheat ones at Whole Foods and at Shaw's in the healthy section. Look for the graham crackers that are there. I can't remember the name, but there's a brand that's whole wheat graham cracker. But I'd still worry about the acrylamide. Acrylamide is something you're going to hear more about in a few years probably, but I'm giving you the info now, just like what I mentioned about that xanthan gum and the gellan gum. No one really knows that yet, but I'm telling you, so that when it's going to be on the news, like, shocker everyone, guess what? But it's not a shocker to you. You know that already. The hexane is that chemical that I mentioned earlier, that's in canola, that they use to make canola oil. That's another one that's kind of scary. So we just want to be careful, and that's when I mentioned get the organic canola oil. There was another, yes.
I have been a type 1 diabetic for
Okay.
almost 40 years.
Uh-huh.
And I've been taught to count carbohydrates, not sugars.
Okay, and sugars are a carbohydrate, but they've been telling you because of your insulin to watch the carbs.
Right.
Yeah, and that's correct. So you know the right insulin dosage. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's still good overall to lower the added sugar in the diet.
Okay.
Yeah. Did my answer in your question
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
Yes.
you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're doing the correct thing because sugar is a carbohydrate. So
Right,
they're having
yeah,
you
I know
watch
that.
carbs
Yeah,
to
yeah.
just get your dosages correct.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
I have a fairly active lifestyle.
Okay.
So I find myself trying to maintain weight, not trying to
Oh,
lose
okay.
weight. So is there such a thing as good calories if you feel like you need to be eating more?
Yeah, so you want to make sure you're getting enough protein in your diet. If you're if you're very active, are you getting enough protein? So protein, if you were looking to maintain or maybe gain weight, you want to make sure that a good part of what you're eating is protein to help you maintain your lean tissue. So the fish and beans, chicken, turkey, nuts, and seeds. So that would be something to think, am I getting enough of all of those? And if you were to meet with me like privately or go see a dietitian, we do a calculation called grams per kilogram. So we would take your body weight and I would multiply it for you're an active guy. So I'd probably multiply it by a 1.2 grams or 1.4 grams per kilogram. And then I would come up with, okay, so he needs about 110 grams of protein. And then ideally, you have 25 to 30 grams per meal to maintain your lean body mass. So I might take your grams, divide by 3, and we come up with 35 grams. Maybe we do 30 grams a meal, and then we do a snack with some in there, and then we would use that strategy. So a lot of it's individual, so it's hard to give a blanket, but that's where I would go with you, and then I would see, well, what does he like? I'm telling him eat fish and beans. He might hate fish and beans. So then we would say, okay, well, maybe we do the turkey and the chicken for you, so we would work individually. But does that help?
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you're eating healthy and that there's protein as part of that. It's very important to get your protein to maintain your lean body mass. One thing we worry about as we get older is our lean tissue atrophying, and there's something called sarcopenia and sarcopenic obesities when we lose strength and we lose lean tissue, but we may still be overweight. And a lot of that has to do with just being sedentary. So you never get too old to move. No one in the room is too old to move. You just move what you can. If that means you're sitting and just moving a ball up and down, that's fine. You do what you can. But we're never too old to move. When we retire, we're not too old to move. The 95-year-old guy that I mentioned you, Castor, from North Attleboro, he goes to yoga. He goes to one of the senior centers for yoga. He's still moving. So moving is going to keep you alive and thriving. So we never want to forget that movement is important. If you don't like to move anymore, then let's find things that we like to do. It's never too late to try Tai Chi, to try some kind of dance class, to try some kind of fitness class that's out there, to go to a Y, to try a different gym. It's never too late for any of those. Other questions? Yes. Oh, over here.
I wanted to make one quick comment.
Sure.
5 days a week at 9 a.m.
Yes.
We have a fitness video fitness program. We have a 91-year-old
Wow.
man who comes in every single day to run the program.
Wow.
Starts it on this TV that doesn't like to run.
Oh, really?
And he has a mind as sharp as a tack.
Yes, the movement does that.
Days. He hasn't
5
been here
days.
For almost 6 months. He hasn't missed a day.
Wow, isn't that amazing? Yeah, can I come to one of those? I want to. Bucky. Oh, that's interesting. Thank you for sharing. Bucky, yes. And then if any of you have to go, that's fine. We'll take a few more questions and then we'll get moving along.
What do you think of that new Asiago powder? I think I'm using it here.
The acai powder?
Acai, yeah.
Yeah, so I think acai powder, I think that's okay to you if you're putting it in a smoothie.
I just started to
Yeah, I think.
an acai bowl with the
Yeah, the bowl. Yeah, I think those can be nice. Sometimes just be careful with the bowls calorie-wise, depending on what your nutrition goals are. Because some of those bowls, when I've gone out to eat, they're really big. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a superfood, and I think that can be really nice. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I hope to see you next week, everyone.